Speak with clarity, conviction, and calm from this moment forward. This full audiobook delivers practical tools, daily exercises, and steady discipline to sharpen every word and build lasting vocal confidence. Across 10 chapters, you will master clarity, expand vocabulary, pace speech, record and refine delivery, wield tone and pauses, structure thought, remove filler, read aloud, tell stories, and emulate great rhythm. Hosted by Jessica and brought to you by Premium Audiobooks, this program pairs stoic wisdom with hands-on practice for immediate results. Subscribe now for weekly chapters, guided drills, and bonus content that deepens skill and sharpens presence today. Number 1. Master clarity through mindful speech practice. Clarity is the soul of articulate speech. It is the invisible thread that connects thought to language, the bridge between what is felt and what is expressed. To master clarity through mindful speech practice is to train both the mind and the tongue to work in harmony. Words are powerful. They shape relationships, influence decisions, and build the perception others have of us. When speech is clear, it reflects discipline. It shows that the speaker has learned to think deliberately, to select words with intention, and to deliver them with calm confidence. Clarity is not about using fancy vocabulary or speaking loudly. It is about speaking truthfully, simply, and purposefully in a way that allows others to feel understood. The first step toward mastering clarity begins long before words leave the mouth. It starts in the silence of the mind. Every sentence we speak is born from thought, and a cluttered mind cannot produce clear speech. When thoughts rush, words stumble. When emotions dominate, language becomes chaotic. To speak clearly, one must first think clearly. This requires mindfulness, awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, and intentions before expressing them. Mindful speech is rooted in self-awareness. It is the discipline of pausing before responding, the practice of asking oneself, what do I truly mean to say? This pause is not hesitation, it is strength. It allows the speaker to transform emotion into meaning, confusion into coherence. In daily life, clarity can be practiced in simple yet profound ways. Begin by observing your patterns of speech. Notice how often you speak without truly considering your words. Pay attention to moments when you talk too fast, when you ramble, or when your message gets lost in too many details. Awareness is the first teacher. The next time you speak, consciously slow down. Feel each word as it leaves your lips. When you speak slower, your brain has time to form thoughts precisely, and your listener has time to absorb what you are saying. This deliberate pace is not about sounding rehearsed. It is about respecting the space between your thoughts and your listener's understanding. Mindful speech also involves the tone and rhythm of communication. Clarity is not only about the words themselves, but about how they are delivered. A calm and steady tone communicates authority and confidence. A hurried or scattered tone reveals nervousness and uncertainty. Breathing plays a crucial role here. Shallow breathing leads to shallow speech. Deep breathing grounds the voice. Before entering an important conversation or presentation, take a slow, full breath. Feel your lungs expand, your shoulders relax, your heartbeat steady. This simple act anchors you in the present. When you breathe consciously, your voice becomes more controlled, your words more intentional. It transforms your speech from reaction to response. Another cornerstone of clear communication is simplicity. Many people mistake complexity for intelligence, using big words or convoluted sentences to impress others, but true mastery lies in the ability to make the complex simple. The most articulate speakers in history, philosophers, teachers, and leaders were admired because their messages were understandable to everyone. Clarity is born from humility, the willingness to be understood rather than admired. When crafting your message, ask yourself, how can I say this more simply? Replace unnecessary jargon with everyday language. Shorten long sentences. Speak to express, not to perform. When your words are simple, your message becomes memorable. A powerful exercise in mindful speech is deliberate articulation. Practice pronouncing words fully, with intention. This does not mean exaggerating every syllable, but ensuring each word is delivered cleanly. Reading aloud is one of the best tools for this. Choose a piece of writing, a poem, a passage from a book, or even your own notes, and read it slowly. listen to how the words sound. Feel the muscles of your mouth shape each sound. Over time, this builds vocal precision and control. It also improves your confidence as you become more aware of how your voice carries meaning. Equally important is learning to listen deeply. Clarity in speech grows from clarity in listening. When you truly listen to others without planning your response or judging their words, you develop empathy and patience, qualities that refine your own communication. Listening trains you to value silence as much as speech. It teaches that words are tools, not weapons, that conversation is an exchange, not a competition. The more you listen, the more precise your responses become, because they are grounded in understanding rather than impulse. Mindful speech is also a reflection of character. It reveals integrity, respect, and discipline. People who speak clearly tend to think before they act. They choose honesty over exaggeration and patience over haste. This alignment between thought and expression creates trust. When others sense that your words are consistent with your intentions, they listen more closely. They begin to associate your voice with truth and reliability. This is not something achieved overnight. It is cultivated through daily practice. Every conversation, no matter how small, is an opportunity to strengthen your clarity. In moments of emotional tension, clarity becomes even more vital. Anger, frustration, or fear can easily cloud expression, leading to regretful words. The practice of mindful speech teaches restraint. It trains the speaker to pause, to breathe, and to choose words that heal rather than harm. The Stoics often reminded themselves that they could not control others, only their own reactions. In speech, this principle becomes a shield. When provoked, respond with calm. When misunderstood, clarify gently. When wrong, admit it humbly. Clarity and humility are twin virtues that strengthen communication and preserve peace. Daily reflection can enhance this practice. At the end of each day, recall your conversations. Were there moments when your message was unclear? Times when you spoke out of impatience or distraction? Write them down. This quiet review is not self-criticism. It is refinement. Over time, you will begin to notice progress. You will interrupt less, listen more, and express yourself with greater precision. The reward of this discipline is not just better communication, it is deeper relationships and greater self-control. Mindful speech also extends beyond the spoken word. The way you write, text, or email reflects the same principles. Every form of communication carries your presence. Before sending a message, reread it and ask, does this reflect what I truly mean? Often, clarity is found not in saying more, but in saying less. Brevity, when guided by mindfulness, has power. It respects both your time and the listener's attention. As you continue this journey, remember that clarity is not perfection. Even the most skilled speakers stumble. What matters is the commitment to awareness, the decision to speak with purpose rather than impulse. Every conversation is a practice ground. Every misstep is a lesson in refinement. The more mindful you become, the more natural clarity feels. Eventually, it stops being something you do and becomes something you are. In mastering clarity through mindful speech practice, you do more than improve your communication. You elevate your presence. People will begin to sense calm and confidence in your words. Your voice will carry weight. Not because it is loud, but because it is deliberate. You will find that misunderstandings decrease, connections deepen, and opportunities open, all because your speech has become a reflection of inner order. There is quiet power in a person who speaks with clarity. It signals self-mastery, awareness, and wisdom. When your words are clear, your life begins to follow the same pattern: structured, calm, and meaningful. Each day offers a chance to refine this art. With every mindful breath before you speak, with every moment of silence before you respond, you shape not only your communication, but your character. To master clarity is to master oneself. And in mastering oneself, one learns the timeless art of true connection. Number 2. Build confidence by expanding daily vocabulary. Confidence begins with the ability to express yourself precisely. Every time you struggle to find the right word, a small crack appears in your confidence. You pause, search, and stumble, and the moment of connection slips away. But when you have the right word ready, When language serves your intention with accuracy and grace, you feel powerful, grounded, and certain. Expanding your daily vocabulary is not an academic exercise. It is an act of empowerment. It allows your thoughts to take full shape, your emotions to be described rather than suppressed, and your ideas to travel clearly from your mind into the world. Words are the instruments of understanding. To build confidence, one must first sharpen those instruments until they can carve meaning effortlessly. The size of your vocabulary is not a measure of intelligence, but it does reflect awareness. Every new word you learn expands your ability to perceive the world differently. A limited vocabulary restricts not only your speech, but also your thought. When you can describe something precisely, you understand it more deeply. Think of how an artist learns the names of colors, how a chef learns the taste of spices, or how a musician learns the language of notes. Each new term opens a new dimension of perception. The same is true for words. When you know more, you see more. And when you see more, you speak with certainty. Confidence in speech grows from the comfort of knowing that you have the words to express what you mean. You no longer fear being misunderstood or appearing unsure. This assurance is built day by day through exposure, curiosity, and consistency. The first step in expanding your vocabulary is to return to curiosity. Listen to the words people use that you do not fully understand. Do not let them pass by unnoticed. Capture them like small treasures. Look them up, explore their meanings, and observe how they are used in different contexts. Every new word is a tool waiting for its moment of usefulness. Over time, this curiosity creates a natural rhythm of learning that requires no forced effort. To make vocabulary growth practical, immerse yourself in language daily. Reading is one of the most powerful ways to achieve this. Read widely: fiction, essays, biographies, poetry, and articles that challenge you. Each writer brings a unique voice, a new way of assembling thoughts. As you read, notice how certain words carry more weight, how they shift the tone of a sentence, or add subtlety to a description. When a word stands out, pause and write it down. Keep a small notebook or digital list where you collect them. Review this list often, not as a student memorizing for an exam, but as a craftsman studying new tools. Yet learning words in isolation is not enough. They must be integrated into your daily life. Choose 1 or 2 new words each day and use them consciously. Slip them into your conversations, your writing, even your private thoughts. The act of using a word solidifies it in memory far more effectively than reading it once. Over time, your vocabulary begins to evolve naturally. You'll find yourself reaching for more precise language without even thinking about it. You will begin to express nuances you once could only feel vaguely. This ability strengthens your self-assurance because it gives you mastery over meaning. Speaking confidently is not about using big or complex words to impress others. It is about using the right word at the right moment. The goal is precision, not decoration. A broad vocabulary gives you choices, and choices give you power. When you can select the perfect word for any situation, you gain control over tone and emotion. For example, the difference between angry, frustrated, and disappointed is subtle but significant. Knowing the distinctions helps you express your feelings honestly without exaggeration. This clarity reduces misunderstandings and increases respect from others. People trust those who communicate with accuracy because accuracy reflects thoughtfulness. To strengthen this habit, speak more deliberately. When you converse, avoid rushing to respond. Take a brief moment to consider the most fitting words. Silence used wisely is not weakness. It signals composure. The person who can pause and choose words carefully radiates quiet authority. Over time, this practice becomes instinctive, and your language becomes both fluent and intentional. The confidence that grows from this habit is not loud or boastful. It is steady and calm, rooted in self-control. Listening is also essential to expanding vocabulary. When you pay close attention to how articulate speakers use language, you absorb rhythm, phrasing, and structure. Watch interviews with thoughtful leaders, authors, or educators. Notice how they select words that are simple yet impactful. Their confidence often comes from their command of expression, not from force. Listening with awareness transforms everyday speech into a classroom. You begin to pick up words unconsciously, just as children do when they first learn to speak. This passive learning, combined with active practice, accelerates your growth exponentially. Confidence also thrives on familiarity. The more comfortable you are with language, the less you fear judgment. Many people hesitate to speak because they worry about saying the wrong thing or sounding uneducated. This fear fades as your word bank grows. When you know you can explain, describe, or persuade with clarity, hesitation disappears. You begin to trust yourself. This self-trust extends beyond speech. It spills into decisions, relationships, and every other area of life. The act of mastering language is, in essence, an act of mastering thought. An effective exercise is to learn words that relate directly to your personal or professional life. If you are in business, study the language of negotiation, leadership, and persuasion. If you are in creative work, learn the vocabulary of emotion, imagery, and design. Tailoring your vocabulary to your goals keeps learning relevant and useful. It transforms abstract learning into a practical daily tool. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to reinforce what you've learned. Writing is another powerful method for expanding and solidifying vocabulary. Keep a journal, not just of experiences, but of expressions. Use the new words you've gathered to describe your thoughts more vividly. Writing forces clarity. It slows the mind down enough for precision to take shape. When you translate abstract thoughts into written language, you become more aware of your linguistic choices. This awareness carries into your speech, strengthening both articulation and confidence. It's also important to approach this journey with patience. Vocabulary expansion is not about memorization, but integration. A single well-understood word can be more valuable than a dozen poorly remembered ones. The goal is gradual mastery. Over weeks and months, your language will shift subtly. You will begin to notice that conversations that once felt intimidating now feel effortless. The right words come naturally, and with them comes the ease of expression that defines true confidence. Self-discipline plays a central role in this process. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Spending 10 minutes each day learning or practicing new words is far more effective than studying sporadically for hours. The mind retains what it revisits. Repetition turns knowledge into instinct. This daily discipline mirrors the Stoic principle of small, deliberate improvement. Progress built from steady effort rather than bursts of enthusiasm. There will be moments of frustration. You may forget words you thought you had learned, or struggle to recall them in conversation. These are not failures, but part of the process of refinement. The mind absorbs through trial and repetition. Each time you search for a forgotten word, your recall strengthens. Every struggle deepens retention. Growth in language, like growth in character, is slow but enduring. Ultimately, expanding your vocabulary is an inward journey as much as an outward one. It reshapes how you perceive yourself and the world. Words allow you to define experiences that once felt formless. They give structure to thought and dignity to emotion. A person who can articulate clearly stands taller, moves with assurance, and faces the world with composure. Confidence does not come from external validation. It arises from the certainty that you can express who you are without confusion. When you build your vocabulary daily, you are not merely collecting words. You are constructing the foundation of your voice. Each new word is a brick in that structure, each use a reinforcement of its strength. Over time, your voice becomes a reflection of knowledge, poise, and authenticity. People begin to listen differently, not because you are louder, but because you speak with precision and conviction. The power of language transforms hesitation into presence, uncertainty into purpose. And in that transformation, confidence ceases to be something you perform. It becomes something you embody. Number 3. Slow pace. Breathe deeply. Enhance delivery. The speed of your speech reveals the state of your mind. When you speak too quickly, your words trip over your thoughts. Your meaning becomes blurred, and your presence feels hurried. But when you slow down, everything changes. Your voice steadies, your ideas gain weight, and your audience begins to listen, not just to your words, but to your composure. To slow your pace, breathe deeply, and enhance your delivery is to learn the discipline of control. It is the art of speaking from a place of stillness rather than from the chaos of unfiltered thought. This mastery is not about sounding dramatic or artificial. It is about aligning your breath, rhythm, and intention so that every word lands with clarity and purpose. Most people underestimate the power of pacing. They rush through sentences because silence makes them uncomfortable. They fear that if they pause, others will lose interest or interrupt. Yet the opposite is true. Pauses command attention. A steady pace conveys confidence and authority. The moment you slow your rhythm, you signal that your message deserves space. People instinctively lean in. They sense the calm beneath your words, and that calm draws them closer. Speaking slowly is not laziness. It is precision. It allows each idea to unfold completely before the next begins, giving your listener the time to absorb and connect. The foundation of this skill lies in breath. Breath is the silent engine of speech, the bridge between your inner composure and your outer expression. When the breath is shallow, the voice becomes weak and tense. When it is full and steady, the voice gains depth and resonance. Before speaking, take a deliberate breath, not a forced inhalation, but a calm, steady one. Feel your abdomen expand instead of your chest rising sharply. This type of breathing, often called diaphragmatic breathing, grounds your energy. It calms the nervous system, slows the heartbeat, and creates space for thought. The moment your breath deepens, your words naturally follow a slower, more deliberate rhythm. A slow pace also sharpens your awareness of language. It gives your mind time to choose the right words and your body time to deliver them effectively. You begin to notice the texture of your speech, the weight of a syllable, the melody of a phrase. This awareness turns communication into an intentional act rather than a reflexive one. Great speakers understand this. They do not rush because they respect the value of each idea. When you slow down, your voice becomes a vehicle of meaning rather than a blur of sound. Practicing this begins with observation. Pay attention to your natural speed of speech in different situations. When you are relaxed, your words likely flow evenly. But under pressure, notice how they accelerate. This is the body's instinctive response to anxiety, a desire to escape discomfort by speeding through it. To master your delivery, you must retrain this instinct. When you feel that urge to rush, consciously counter it with a breath. Let the breath be your anchor. The pause it creates gives your body time to settle and your mind time to recalibrate. Over time, this conscious slowing becomes effortless, a rhythm that defines your natural speaking style. Breathing also influences tone, which is a key part of delivery. Shallow breathing often leads to a high, tense voice that strains under pressure. Deep breathing allows your tone to drop into its natural resonance, producing a sound that is warm, confident, and trustworthy. The listener may not consciously notice this change, but they will feel it. A calm voice invites calmness in others. It reassures the audience that the speaker is in control. This quiet confidence cannot be faked. It must be cultivated through consistent awareness of breath and pace. Slowing your pace does not mean dragging your speech. It means creating a rhythm that matches your intention. Every sentence has a natural cadence, and part of effective delivery is learning to ride that rhythm. When discussing something serious, your pace may be slower, more deliberate, allowing each thought to sink in. When telling a story or building excitement, your pace may quicken slightly to match the energy of the moment. The goal is not uniform slowness, but conscious variation. Pacing, like music, relies on contrast. The pauses, the rests, and the changes in tempo all add meaning beyond the words themselves. A practical exercise for developing this skill is to read aloud and record yourself. Choose a passage that you find meaningful and deliver it slowly, emphasizing the rhythm of each sentence. Listen afterward and notice where your pace felt natural and where it felt forced. Most people are surprised to discover how quickly they actually speak when they hear themselves recorded. The process of listening back builds self-awareness, helping you internalize what a calm and confident pace truly sounds like. Over time, this awareness begins to transfer into everyday conversation, transforming how you express yourself. Pauses are another powerful component of enhanced delivery. Many speakers fear silence, treating it as a mistake to be filled immediately. Yet silence is one of the most persuasive tools available. A well-placed pause allows the listener to digest what you have said and anticipate what comes next. It gives emotional weight to your message. It also signals confidence, because only those who are sure of their words can afford to pause. Think of the great speakers throughout history. Their words carried gravity, not because of speed, but because of timing. A brief moment of stillness between sentences can make the simplest statement sound profound. Body language complements this process. When you slow your pace, your gestures naturally become more deliberate. Quick, erratic movements often accompany rushed speech, while slower gestures convey control and composure. Keep your posture open, your shoulders relaxed, and your hands purposeful. Every movement should reinforce your message, not distract from it. This harmony between body, breath, and voice creates a presence that feels grounded. People remember not just what you say, but how you make them feel. And calm delivery leaves a lasting impression of strength. Another key benefit of speaking slowly and breathing deeply is emotional regulation. When your pace quickens, adrenaline surges, and anxiety takes control. By consciously slowing down, you interrupt this pattern. Your breath signals safety to your body, and your mind regains focus. This practice extends beyond public speaking. It enhances all forms of communication, whether in a difficult conversation, a presentation, or a simple exchange with a friend. Maintaining a steady pace helps you remain composed. It turns reactive communication into intentional expression. You can practice this skill throughout the day. Before making a call, take one deep breath. Before answering a question, allow a brief pause. When explaining something, consciously reduce your speed by a small degree. Notice how it feels to take up time, how your voice resonates more fully, and how listeners respond. Confidence grows each time you prove to yourself that you can control the rhythm of your speech, rather than letting nerves dictate it. Enhancing delivery is not about perfection. It is about presence. A slow pace, supported by deep breathing, allows you to inhabit each moment fully. It aligns your body and mind, ensuring that your message is consistent with your energy. This authenticity resonates far more deeply than any rehearsed performance. When your pace is calm, your audience feels calm. When your breath is steady, your message carries steadiness. And when your delivery is thoughtful, people trust you more. In a world where most voices rush to be heard, the voice that takes its time stands apart. It signals self-assurance, patience, and wisdom. Speaking slowly is not a sign of hesitation, but of mastery. The mastery of oneself. Each breath, each pause, each deliberate word becomes a mark of discipline. Over time, this practice transforms how you communicate and how you live. You begin to move through life with the same calm rhythm you use in speech. Measured, grounded, and fully aware. Confidence is no longer something you try to project. It becomes the natural rhythm of your being. Number 4. Record, review, refine every spoken word. Growth begins with awareness, and awareness begins with observation. To record, review, and refine every spoken word is to become the architect of your communication. Most people go through life speaking automatically, unaware of how they sound, how their tone shifts, or how their message lands. They may believe they speak well, but perception and reality rarely align until one listens from the outside. Recording your speech gives you the mirror that your voice has long been missing. It exposes habits hidden beneath comfort, shines light on patterns you never noticed, and gives you the opportunity to transform your communication from instinctive to intentional. The act of recording yourself can feel uncomfortable at first. Many resist it because hearing one's own voice feels foreign. That discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of awakening. It means you are hearing yourself as others do, perhaps for the first time. This simple yet profound practice separates those who wish to improve from those who simply wish to appear confident. The truth is that mastery requires humility, and humility requires the courage to observe oneself without denial. By listening to your own speech objectively, you begin to discover the small details that make the difference between clarity and confusion, between confidence and hesitation. When you begin this process, start with something simple. Record yourself speaking about a topic you know well, a short story, an idea, or a reflection on your day. Don't overthink or rehearse. Let it flow naturally. Once done, play it back and listen carefully. Not to judge, but to understand. Notice the rhythm of your sentences. Do you rush or pause too often? Are your ideas organized or scattered? Pay attention to your tone. Does it sound warm, assertive, tense, or uncertain? These subtle observations hold the key to refinement. Your first few recordings might feel awkward, but they provide the foundation for growth that cannot be achieved through theory alone. Listening to yourself helps you identify the habits that often go unnoticed in daily conversation. You might discover that you use filler words, small verbal crutches like, you know, or like, more than you realize. You might hear that your sentences end weakly, or that your tone rises unnecessarily, giving an impression of doubt. You may find your voice lacks energy or varies too little in pitch, causing monotony. None of these are flaws of character. They are simply patterns of habit, and habits, once seen, can be reshaped. Every recording is a training ground for discipline, a chance to replace unconscious patterns with deliberate expression. The review process should be systematic. After listening to your recording once for general impressions, play it again with a specific focus each time. The first time, focus on clarity. Do your words flow logically? The second time, focus on tone. Does your voice reflect the emotion or intent behind your message? The third time, pay attention to pacing. Does your speed allow understanding or does it feel rushed? This methodical approach transforms the abstract idea of better communication into concrete, measurable steps. Over time, you begin to anticipate these qualities as you speak, automatically adjusting before errors occur. Refinement begins when you translate awareness into action. Each recording offers clues about what to strengthen. If your tone sounds flat, experiment with emphasizing key words or varying pitch. If you sound tense, practice breathing more deeply before speaking. If your ideas wander, prepare brief outlines before you talk about complex topics. Refinement is a process of deliberate iteration. You adjust, record again, review, and repeat. Like a craftsman sanding a surface until it shines, you polish your delivery through persistence. The goal is not perfection, it is progress. Each attempt brings you closer to expressing your ideas with honesty, balance, and precision. This practice builds more than skill. It builds confidence. Every time you record and review, you train your ear and mind to align. You learn how your voice carries emotion, how your pauses build anticipation, and how your energy influences others. The knowledge that you can consciously improve gives you control. You stop fearing how you sound because you have learned to direct it. The uncertainty that once weakened your presence fades, replaced by self-assurance grounded in experience. Confidence rooted in awareness is unshakable because it is earned, not imagined. Beyond personal improvement, recording and refining speech also cultivates empathy. When you listen to yourself, you begin to understand how others perceive you, the emotions your tone evokes, the clarity your words convey, and the energy you transmit. This awareness enhances connection. You become more sensitive to your listener's perspective, adjusting your delivery to ensure understanding rather than assumption. Good communication is not about talking more, it is about connecting better. Through self-review, you learn to remove what distracts from connection and strengthen what deepens it. Another advantage of recording yourself is that it reveals the emotional undercurrents in your speech. Sometimes the voice carries tension long before the mind acknowledges it. A tight throat, uneven breathing, or forced tone often signals underlying anxiety or self-doubt. Recognizing these patterns through playback allows you to address them at their source. The solution is not just vocal, it's emotional. As you relax, your voice opens. As you gain self-trust, your tone becomes natural. Every refined word becomes a reflection of inner balance. A powerful technique for refinement is contrast practice. Record yourself delivering the same message in different styles, once with energy, once calmly, once slowly, once conversationally. Compare the results. Notice which version feels most authentic and which sounds forced. Over time, you develop flexibility in expression, learning to adjust your delivery to fit different situations, formal discussions, storytelling, persuasion, or instruction. This adaptability makes you a more dynamic and confident communicator, capable of influencing any audience with precision. Consistency is the key to mastery. Recording once or twice will not create transformation. Doing it regularly will. Set aside a few minutes each day to record a short reflection, a description, or even a practice speech. The purpose is not to produce perfection, but to build familiarity. The more you hear your own voice, the less it feels foreign. What once caused discomfort begins to feel natural. You start to recognize your progress, the reduction of filler words, the improvement of tone, the rhythm of breathing. Each small victory reinforces your confidence, proving that deliberate effort leads to tangible change. Refining speech also strengthens thought. As you listen to yourself, you begin to see how the clarity of language mirrors the clarity of thinking. When your ideas are organized in your mind, they flow effortlessly through your voice. When your thoughts are scattered, your words follow. Reviewing your recordings helps you detect this mental clutter. It teaches you to slow down, simplify, and express only what truly matters. The more precise your thinking becomes, the more natural your articulation grows. In time, the process evolves from practice to instinct. You begin to hear yourself as you speak, adjusting tone, pace, and phrasing in real time. The external recording becomes an internal one, a mental playback that keeps you aligned. This is the point where refinement turns into mastery, the moment your awareness operates seamlessly, without conscious effort. The speaker who reaches this stage communicates not just with words, but with presence. The discipline of recording, reviewing, and refining every spoken word teaches more than speech. It teaches self-respect. It demonstrates that your words are worth improving, your voice worth hearing, and your growth worth investing in. It is an act of responsibility toward your own potential. Through this process, you learn to transform imperfection into progress, uncertainty into confidence, and noise into meaning. In mastering this habit, you reshape how you present yourself to the world. You become precise, composed, and intentional. Others will begin to notice the change, though they may not know what has shifted. They will sense the clarity, the calmness, the strength behind your words, and you will know that it came not from chance or talent, but from the discipline of observation and refinement. Every great communicator is not born, but built through the quiet, persistent work of listening, improving, and evolving one word at a time. Number 5. Engage listeners using tone and pauses. Every voice carries emotion, energy, and rhythm. It is not the words alone that move people, but how those words are delivered. The tone of your voice is the emotional signature of your message, while pauses give it shape and gravity. Together, they form the unspoken half of communication, the invisible current that connects speaker and listener. To engage listeners using tone and pauses is to master the art of vocal presence, to turn ordinary speech into a living experience. When tone and silence are used with purpose, your words stop being mere information and become expression, persuasion, and connection. Tone is the bridge between meaning and feeling. It conveys the message beneath the message, the part that logic cannot express. The same sentence can sound kind or condescending, confident or uncertain, depending entirely on tone. People may forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And tone is the language of feeling. To engage others deeply, you must learn to shape your tone as deliberately as you choose your words. A controlled tone projects confidence. A warm tone builds trust. A measured tone invites reflection. Every variation communicates intention. Tone begins with awareness. Most people speak in habitual patterns without realizing the emotional impression their voice leaves behind. To develop control, start by observing your natural tone in different situations. When you speak to a friend, notice the lightness and ease. When addressing a group, notice the change in pitch or tension. Awareness allows choice. And choice brings power. Once you can hear your tone clearly, you can begin to use it strategically. If you wish to inspire, speak with energy and openness. If you wish to reassure, let your voice soften and slow. If you wish to persuade, let your tone carry conviction and calm authority. Tone is not volume. Speaking louder does not make you more engaging. It often signals strain or insecurity. True power in tone comes from depth and control. A voice that carries steadiness commands attention far more than one that shouts for it. Breath once again plays a key role here. When your breath is deep and grounded, your tone naturally gains resonance. The sound vibrates through the body, giving your speech a richness that captivates without force. People are drawn to voices that sound assured yet composed, because they reflect balance. Pauses, on the other hand, are the quiet pillars that hold your message upright. They give words time to breathe and ideas space to sink in. Many speakers underestimate the value of silence, rushing from one sentence to the next, as if afraid of losing attention. But the opposite happens. Listeners process meaning during pauses. The brain catches up, emotions settle, and focus deepens. The moment you allow silence, you invite participation. The listener becomes part of the experience, not merely a spectator. Using pauses effectively requires intention. There are different kinds of pauses, each serving a distinct purpose. A pause before a key idea builds anticipation. A pause after it gives weight and reflection. Short pauses emphasize rhythm, while longer ones create emotional depth. Think of speech as music. Without rests, even the most beautiful melody becomes noise. Silence defines sound, just as stillness defines movement. When you learn to time your pauses, your words gain shape, and your delivery begins to resonate beyond the surface. The combination of tone and pauses forms the emotional architecture of speech. Together, they make communication dynamic. A story told in a monotone voice, without variation or timing, loses life. But the same story, delivered with tonal color and deliberate pauses, becomes unforgettable. The listener is not just hearing words, but feeling them. The rhythm keeps attention anchored, while changes in tone signal importance, empathy, or excitement. This is how a speaker captures hearts, not by speaking more, but by speaking with intention. Practicing tone and pauses begins with simple exercises. Read a paragraph aloud, recording yourself. Experiment with tonal variation. Emphasize certain words, soften others, stretch a phrase slightly, or allow a moment of quiet after a powerful statement. Listen back and notice how these changes alter the impact. The difference is often dramatic. This process helps you become aware of how subtle shifts in tone and pacing influence emotion and understanding. Over time, this awareness becomes instinctive. You begin to adjust naturally based on the listener's reactions, their facial expressions, body language, or silence. Tone is also shaped by emotion. You cannot fake authenticity. Your tone exposes your inner state. If you are anxious, it tightens. If you are sincere, it opens. This connection between emotion and voice means that mastering tone requires emotional regulation. Before speaking, take a moment to center yourself. Align your intention with your message. When your heart and mind are in harmony, your tone follows effortlessly. A calm mind produces a calm voice, just as a turbulent one produces tension. Emotional honesty paired with control is the secret behind a voice that feels both powerful and human. Pauses, too, are rooted in discipline. They require comfort with stillness. Many fear silence because it feels like vulnerability, a space where control seems to slip. Yet it is in that stillness that presence is most strongly felt. The confident speaker uses silence not as a void but as a tool. They pause after a key idea, allowing the weight of it to settle. They pause before answering, signaling that thought precedes response. These moments of stillness communicate respect for the listener, for the subject, and for oneself. To enhance delivery, focus on contrast. A skilled communicator understands that engagement thrives on variation. When tone remains constant, even strong messages fade. Introduce light and shade. Moments of softness followed by strength, energy followed by calm. This movement mirrors natural conversation and keeps the listener's attention alive. Pauses amplify these contrasts, turning transitions into moments of significance. The interplay between sound and silence creates rhythm, and rhythm creates memorability. Every audience, whether one person or many, responds instinctively to vocal energy. When your tone rises with enthusiasm, they feel uplifted. When it lowers in sincerity, they lean in. The speaker's responsibility is to guide that energy deliberately, never leaving it to chance. Engaging tone is not theatrical. It is intentional modulation aligned with emotion and meaning. It is the difference between speaking at someone and speaking with them. Developing tonal mastery also requires listening. Observe how others speak: the teacher who captivates, the leader who inspires, the storyteller who moves an audience to silence. Study their voices. Notice how they shift tone to match emotion, how they use pauses to emphasize key ideas. This practice sharpens your ear and expands your expressive range. Inspiration from others provides raw material, but true mastery emerges when you adapt these elements to your own natural voice. Authenticity remains essential. A borrowed tone may impress temporarily, but it cannot sustain connection. The voice must reflect who you are: refined, intentional, but genuine. In refining your use of tone and pauses, patience becomes your ally. Every conversation is an opportunity to practice. When you explain an idea, pause slightly before the key point. When you tell a story, let emotion guide your tone naturally. When you sense distraction, lower your voice rather than raising it. Quiet confidence draws attention more effectively than force. Gradually, these habits become second nature. Your speech gains rhythm, your tone gains depth, and your presence begins to command attention effortlessly. The mastery of tone and pauses transforms communication from mechanical to magnetic. It makes your words not only heard but felt. People will begin to remember your voice, not for its volume but for its balance, for how it made them think, reflect, or feel understood. This kind of engagement does not fade quickly. It lingers because it touches something human. When you control your tone, you control emotion. When you master pauses, you control time. Together, they grant you authority over the rhythm of interaction itself. The listener follows your pace, senses your energy, and connects with your intention. This is the essence of powerful communication. Not domination, but harmony. You guide the conversation with quiet precision, shaping experience through rhythm and resonance. In the end, tone and pauses reveal the speaker's inner world. They show patience, empathy, and depth. They signal that your communication is not rushed, that your words are chosen, and your silence meaningful. The mastery of these two elements elevates every conversation, every presentation, every moment of expression. It is through this balance of sound and silence that you create impact, an impact that speaks long after your voice has fallen quiet. Number 6. Structure thoughts before speaking for precision. Clarity in speech begins long before a single word is spoken. The true foundation of articulate communication lies in the organization of thought. When the mind is scattered, words become uncertain. When thoughts are structured, speech flows with precision. To speak clearly, one must first think clearly. Every confident expression begins as a moment of inner alignment, a quiet ordering of ideas before they are brought to life through language. The discipline of structuring thoughts is the art of shaping chaos into coherence, giving form to what would otherwise be noise. Before you speak, the mind races ahead, collecting impressions, emotions, and fragments of ideas. Without discipline, these fragments spill out in disjointed sentences that confuse rather than enlighten. The ability to slow down and arrange those thoughts, like a craftsman organizing tools before beginning work, distinguishes articulate speakers from those who merely fill the air with words. Structure transforms impulse into intention. It ensures that what you express has weight, logic, and direction. The listener senses this order instantly. It communicates respect, confidence, and competence. Structured thinking is not about rigidity. It does not demand rehearsed speech or mechanical order. Instead, it calls for clarity of purpose. Before speaking, ask yourself, what is the essence of what I want to say? What outcome do I want to achieve? Who is listening, and what matters to them? These silent questions sharpen the mind, like a blade before it strikes. Once you have this clarity, words flow not as random utterances but as deliberate expression. A well-structured thought is a compass for communication. It prevents you from wandering off course. The process begins internally. Imagine each thought as a thread. When unorganized, these threads tangle easily, making speech uncertain and repetitive. But when you gather and align them, they weave into a coherent pattern. One effective way to do this mentally is to identify 3 key points before speaking. Whether you are answering a question, giving feedback, or telling a story, find the main ideas that form your message. This triad provides balance. It keeps you from rambling and allows the listener to follow easily. The number may change with context, but the principle remains: structure thought into sections the mind can hold. Structured speech also respects sequence. The order in which ideas are presented shapes understanding. Beginning with context establishes clarity, following with detail builds substance, ending with purpose leaves impact. This order mirrors the natural flow of reasoning. When you skip steps or mix them chaotically, you lose the listener. Precision comes from guiding others through your thoughts, step by step, without forcing them to guess your direction. That's compelling speakers are not those who speak the most, but those who lead minds effortlessly through a journey of understanding. A practical exercise for structuring thought is mental summarization. Before responding in conversation, pause for a brief moment, long enough to summarize in your mind the key message you wish to express. This pause allows the brain to filter unnecessary details, keeping your words concise. It also projects calm authority. People notice when someone takes a moment to think. It signals care and self-control. In a world addicted to speed, those who pause to shape their words stand out as intentional and wise. Precision in speech also depends on perspective. When you organize your thoughts, think not only about what you wish to express, but how it will be received. The listener's frame of reference matters. Structured communication is not about displaying knowledge, but ensuring mutual understanding. Adapt your message to the listener's level of familiarity and interest. Simplicity often reflects mastery, not limitation. The ability to condense complex thoughts into clear, digestible language shows control over both mind and message. Another powerful habit is visualization. Before speaking, visualize the flow of your message as if mapping a path. See where it begins, where it turns, and where it ends. Visualization helps prevent verbal detours. It keeps your speech anchored to purpose. It also enhances confidence, because your mind already knows the route before your mouth begins to travel it. This inner map becomes instinctive over time, guiding you even in spontaneous conversation. A structured mind also practices restraint. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. The ability to filter ideas before expressing them is an advanced form of discipline. It prevents misunderstanding, emotional reactions, and wasted words. There is wisdom in brevity, but brevity without structure is emptiness. The disciplined speaker knows how to select and frame words that deliver substance without excess. The result is clarity that commands respect. Precision in speaking is inseparable from clarity in thinking. And clarity in thinking is built through daily mental organization. Reading, writing, and reflection sharpen this skill. Writing, especially, is a mirror for thought. It reveals confusion that speech often hides. By practicing written articulation, you strengthen your ability to structure ideas internally. When you write, you are forced to organize, refine, and prioritize. Over time, this mental order carries into speech, allowing you to speak with ease, coherence, and purpose. Preparation also plays a role in structured communication. Before entering an important conversation, presentation, or discussion, take a few minutes to outline your main ideas. You do not need a script, only direction. Think in patterns: problem, reason, solution, observation, insight, example, idea, evidence, conclusion. These patterns provide mental frameworks that keep your speech logical and memorable. With practice, they become automatic, guiding even impromptu remarks with structure and flow. Emotional clarity supports mental structure. When emotions run high, thought becomes scattered. The mind floods with reactions instead of reflections. In such moments, discipline begins with the breath. A single calm inhale can reset thought order, allowing structure to return. Emotion and reason need not be enemies, but emotion without order often leads to regret. The ability to pause, breathe, and then speak from structured awareness reflects maturity. It is not coldness, it is mastery over impulse. Structured thought also reflects respect for the listener's time and attention. When you organize your ideas, you save others from confusion. You make comprehension effortless. In a sense, clarity is an act of generosity. The listener feels valued when your words guide rather than overwhelm. This creates connection and trust, two elements essential for meaningful communication. People gravitate toward those who make understanding simple. There is also a moral dimension to structured speaking. When thoughts are ordered, truth becomes clearer. Precision in words prevents distortion of meaning. Many conflicts arise from vague or careless expression, not ill intent. Structured communication minimizes misunderstanding because it forces accuracy. It aligns what you think with what you say. This alignment builds integrity, and integrity in speech builds credibility. A person whose words consistently reflect clarity earns a reputation of reliability. To strengthen the mind's ability to structure thoughts, engage in deliberate reflection daily. Before sleep, revisit your conversations of the day. Notice moments when your words felt scattered or unclear. Analyze what thoughts preceded that moment. Were they rushed, emotional, or unfocused? Over time, this awareness trains the mind to self-correct. The next time you feel words forming too quickly, your inner discipline will slow them, structure them, and then release them with precision. In every setting, personal, professional, or social, those who speak with structure stand apart. Their words carry calm authority, not because they dominate the conversation, but because they guide it. Structured speaking turns communication into an art of precision, one where every idea lands exactly where it should. It gives power not through volume, but through clarity. Such speech commands attention quietly, without demanding it. When your thoughts are structured, your presence changes. You project steadiness. You appear composed even under pressure, because your mind is not reacting. It is responding. Structured thinking turns chaos into coherence, and coherence into influence. Listeners feel the difference. They sense order behind your words, intention behind your pauses, and wisdom behind your restraint. The journey toward precision in speech is at its core a journey toward self-mastery. It requires awareness, patience, and daily practice. It is not achieved through memorized techniques, but through cultivated discipline. The goal is not perfection, but progress. Each day refining the distance between thought and word, each day bringing your expression closer to clarity. Ultimately, the structure of thought gives voice to the structure of character. When you discipline your mind, your speech becomes a reflection of that inner order. The more you organize your thoughts, the more naturally your words align with truth and purpose. You no longer speak to impress. You speak to express, to connect, and to illuminate. And in doing so, your voice becomes a vessel of clarity, precision, and quiet power. An instrument that transforms noise into meaning and conversation into understanding. Number 7. Eliminate filler words. Embrace purposeful silence. Every word you speak carries a trace of your inner discipline. The way you choose, shape, and deliver language reveals the structure of your mind. In that sense, speech is never accidental. It is a reflection of awareness. Filler words like, basically, and actually leak from the spaces where certainty should be. They fill the silence that most people fear, the quiet gaps between thoughts. Yet, those small intrusions dilute clarity, weaken confidence, and obscure meaning. To speak with precision and poise, you must learn to remove what is unnecessary and embrace the silence that remains. Purposeful silence is not emptiness. It is intention made audible. The habit of using filler words is often born from discomfort with pause. The human mind moves faster than speech, and in that gap we reach for something, anything, to hold the listener's attention. We insert verbal noise to disguise hesitation, but this illusion of fluency is deceptive. Filler words make the speaker sound uncertain, even when the message is strong. They erode authority not because they are offensive, but because they suggest a lack of control. Every unnecessary sound draws focus away from meaning, fragmenting what could otherwise be powerful. The art of eliminating these distractions begins not with the tongue but with awareness. Awareness is the first filter of refinement. Pay attention to your patterns. Notice when filler words slip into your speech. They often appear in specific moments, when explaining something complex, when nervous, or when improvising. Listen to yourself in conversation or record short segments of your speech. Hearing your own voice can be uncomfortable at first, but it exposes habits the mind overlooks. Once you recognize the pattern, you gain the power to interrupt it. Awareness dissolves automatic behavior, replacing it with deliberate choice. The discipline of removing filler words is not about perfection but precision. You do not need to speak mechanically or suppress your natural rhythm. Instead, aim for intentionality. Every word should earn its place. When a filler starts to rise to the surface, pause, breathe, let silence occupy that space. At first, it may feel unnatural, even vulnerable. Yet, that quiet moment is where power begins to build. The pause signals confidence and composure. It shows that you are thinking, not panicking. In silence, you reclaim authority over your voice. Purposeful silence is one of the most potent tools in communication. It carries a weight that no filler can match. When used well, silence magnifies the impact of what comes before and after it. It creates anticipation, reflection, and emotional resonance. Think of it as the punctuation that gives shape to meaning. Without silence, speech becomes flat. A stream without form. With silence, ideas breathe. The listener has time to absorb, to think, and to feel. True mastery of speech is not measured by how much one says, but by how meaningfully one balances words in quiet. There is also a psychological transformation that comes with embracing silence. When you no longer rush to fill every moment with noise, your relationship with uncertainty changes. You stop fearing pauses as signs of weakness and start seeing them as signals of control. Silence allows thought to mature before expression. It slows down reaction and replaces impulse with intention. This inner stillness translates outwardly as confidence. People sense it in your presence. They feel your calm assurance. In that space of measured speech, trust grows naturally. Training the mind to prefer silence over filler requires patience. Begin by practicing in low-stakes conversations. Before responding, allow a short pause. It may feel longer than it truly is, but the listener rarely perceives it as awkward. Use this moment to align your thoughts. Over time, the pause becomes part of your natural rhythm. As filler words fade, your voice acquires a sharper edge. Listeners start paying closer attention, not because you speak louder, but because you speak with precision. The absence of clutter draws focus to meaning. Breath again plays an essential role. Filler words often appear when the breath runs short. A shallow breath creates anxiety, forcing the speaker to rush. When you breathe fully, you slow the rhythm of speech naturally. The lungs supply both sound and steadiness. Deep breathing grounds your voice, giving each word the support it needs to stand without filler. It also provides a moment of pause, a small space where silence lives comfortably. When you breathe consciously, silence becomes an ally rather than an interruption. Listening is another powerful teacher in this process. Pay attention to speakers who use silence effectively. Leaders, narrators, or storytellers who make pauses feel alive. Notice how they command attention without excess words. Their confidence resides not in constant talking, but in measured expression. They trust the listener to stay with them through silence. This trust is key. The fear of losing attention drives most filler habits. When you trust your presence and your message, you no longer need to fill space with sound. Silence itself becomes the proof of authority. In conversation, silence can serve as a tool of empathy. When someone speaks, resist the urge to respond immediately. Let a brief pause follow their words. This moment communicates that you are listening fully, that you are not preparing your next statement, but truly processing theirs. The quiet between exchanges deepens connection. It shows patience and respect. Words lose their weight when they rush, but when silence frames them, they become memorable. Eliminating filler words also improves clarity of thought. Each pause gives your mind a fraction of a second to select the most accurate expression. Rather than filling gaps with noise, you begin to fill them with precision. Speech becomes cleaner, more deliberate, and more impactful. The listener hears the essence of what you mean, unclouded by verbal clutter. This clarity radiates confidence, not arrogance, but quiet certainty. It reflects a disciplined mind, one that does not waste words or energy. The practice extends beyond formal speaking. In everyday life, silence enhances awareness. It teaches patience in dialogue, control in conflict, and depth in observation. By embracing quiet moments, you learn to listen not just to others but to yourself. Inner silence strengthens external articulation. The clearer your inner dialogue becomes, the fewer fillers you will need. The mind that is comfortable with stillness does not scramble to fill space. It trusts its own rhythm. Over time, as you strip away fillers, your speech begins to carry a distinct rhythm, measured, calm, and deliberate. Each word lands with intent. Silence acts as the invisible framework holding everything together. You begin to speak with less, yet say more. This is the paradox of eloquence. Power often lies in restraint. The discipline of silence transforms your voice into a mirror of self-mastery. It reveals thoughtfulness, composure, and authenticity. People listen not because of what you say, but because they sense presence in the pauses between your words. There is an elegance in speech that allows silence to breathe between phrases. It shows that you are unhurried, unafraid, and fully present. In contrast, filler words signal distraction and insecurity. By eliminating them, you invite a new kind of confidence, one rooted not in verbal fluency but in inner calm. The listener feels this shift. They sense that your silence is not hesitation, but deliberation. Each moment of quiet becomes a statement in itself, more eloquent than any filler could ever be. To reach this level of mastery, practice daily mindfulness in communication. Observe your speech not as a critic, but as a sculptor refining stone. Each conversation becomes a chance to remove a little more excess, to reveal more clarity. Notice when a filler word appears, and replace it with a gentle pause. Reward yourself for moments of restraint. The process is gradual but transformative. Eventually, your silence begins to speak louder than your words. The journey of eliminating filler words and embracing purposeful silence is one of self-awareness and control. It teaches patience, humility, and presence. It replaces nervous sound with meaningful quiet, transforming every conversation into an act of intention. Through this discipline, you discover that silence is not the absence of expression. It is its highest form. When your voice rests comfortably within silence, when your words arise from stillness rather than impulse, your communication becomes pure, powerful, and profoundly human. In that space between sound and stillness lies the essence of articulation, the place where wisdom and confidence meet, and where the voice becomes an instrument of true understanding. Number 8. Read aloud daily to sharpen articulation. The act of reading aloud is one of the simplest yet most transformative practices for refining speech. It turns the written word into sound, training the mind, the breath, and the muscles of the mouth to work together in perfect rhythm. Reading aloud sharpens articulation because it transforms passive understanding into active communication. When you read silently, your mind grasps meaning. When you read aloud, your entire being participates. Your breath controls pace, your tongue shapes clarity, your tone carries emotion, and your posture influences projection. This harmony between body and mind strengthens the foundation of every word you speak. Reading aloud daily is not merely an exercise in pronunciation. It is a discipline of presence. It forces you to slow down, to hear yourself fully, and to inhabit each word with awareness. Many people speak without truly listening to themselves. Their words rush forward before they are formed, leading to mumbled phrases and unclear articulation. But when you read aloud, you are compelled to give every sound its due attention. Each syllable becomes deliberate. This attentiveness builds precision, and over time, precision becomes habit. Consistency is what transforms reading aloud from an exercise into mastery. Even 10 minutes each day can reshape the way you speak. The goal is not speed, but clarity. Choose material that challenges your expression, something rich in rhythm, language, and emotion. Classical literature, poetry, and speeches work beautifully because they demand variation in tone and pacing. As you read, Notice how the mouth forms consonants, how vowels stretch, how pauses feel between sentences. This physical awareness strengthens your articulation far more than silent reading ever could. Articulation depends heavily on muscle memory. The tongue, lips, and jaw are instruments that require training like any other. Reading aloud provides daily rehearsal. It stretches these muscles, refines coordination, and improves enunciation. Over time, your speech becomes crisp, your pronunciation precise, and your words carry a new resonance. Just as an athlete conditions the body through repetition, a speaker refines expression through sound. Each session of reading aloud conditions your voice to perform naturally under pressure. Whether in conversation, presentation, or performance, this practice also develops vocal endurance and control. When you read for extended periods, you strengthen the diaphragm and expand breath capacity. Controlled breathing keeps your tone steady and prevents fatigue. You learn to support your voice from within rather than forcing it outward. The result is a sound that feels effortless yet powerful. The more you read aloud, the more you understand your own range. The subtle variations of tone, the soft and strong moments, the natural rise and fall of sentences. This awareness makes you adaptable, capable of adjusting your voice to suit any audience or emotion. Reading aloud also trains focus. In a distracted world, attention often scatters before a thought completes. But reading aloud requires you to follow the line of meaning from start to finish, without interruption. You must stay aware of the next word while delivering the current one, maintaining rhythm and coherence. This strengthens concentration and mental agility. The sharper your focus, the smoother your delivery becomes. A scattered mind produces scattered speech. A disciplined mind produces articulate expression. Another subtle power of reading aloud lies in its ability to connect emotion with language. As you give voice to words, you begin to feel their emotional undertone. You sense the difference between joy and sorrow in rhythm, between urgency and calm in pacing. This connection deepens empathy and expressive range. When you later speak in real situations, your voice carries genuine feeling because you have practiced aligning thought, tone, and emotion through reading. The listener responds not just to what you say, but to the life within your voice. This practice also exposes weakness that silent reading hides. When you stumble over a word, struggle with pacing, or lose breath mid-sentence, it reveals areas that need refinement. Instead of frustration, treat these moments as teachers. Slow down. Repeat the sentence until it flows effortlessly. Each correction builds mastery. Over time, you begin to anticipate challenges before they arise, shaping words with foresight. The clarity gained through this process seeps naturally into spontaneous speech, making your communication smoother and more confident. Reading aloud daily also strengthens rhythm and cadence. Every writer has a natural musicality in their language. When you vocalize that rhythm, you train your ear to recognize the melody of well-structured sentences. This awareness enhances your own speaking rhythm. You learn when to rise, when to soften, when to linger on a phrase, and when to move swiftly. Articulate speech is not merely clear, it is melodic. It captures the listener's attention through its flow. The daily rhythm of reading aloud tunes your voice to this natural cadence. There is a meditative quality to this discipline as well. When you read aloud, distractions fade. Your attention narrows to the page. Your breath synchronizes with the pace of the words, and your thoughts align with the rhythm of your voice. This mindful state cultivates calmness. You are not performing, you are present. Over time, this stillness carries into other forms of communication. You begin to speak more thoughtfully, listen more deeply, and respond with intention. Reading aloud becomes a practice of grounding, aligning thought and speech into harmony. The choice of what to read matters. Select texts that inspire you, challenge your intellect, or expand your worldview. Poetry refines rhythm, essays build structure, and dialogue sharpens realism. Variety keeps the exercise alive. Occasionally, read something outside your comfort zone, technical material, philosophy, or a foreign accent, to stretch your articulation further. The greater the challenge, the stronger the growth. Every page you read aloud is a small step toward mastery. Beyond individual improvement, reading aloud develops empathy for communication itself. You begin to appreciate how language carries emotion, intention, and culture. You become sensitive to nuance, tone, and rhythm in others' speech. This awareness deepens listening skills, which in turn refines how you respond. The cycle of articulation and comprehension strengthens, creating balance in every exchange. You no longer just talk, you can. A daily reading practice also enhances confidence. There is something deeply empowering about hearing your own voice grow stronger, clearer, and more resonant with time. Each session reinforces self-trust. You begin to believe in your capacity to express meaning accurately and beautifully. This quiet confidence transfers into conversations, interviews, and public speaking. The once doubtful voice becomes assured because it has been trained through repetition and awareness. Confidence built through practice endures longer than any momentary burst of courage. Another overlooked benefit of reading aloud is mental clarity. The process organizes thought patterns. As you read complex sentences, your mind learns to process and deliver information in real time. This coordination between comprehension and expression mirrors real-world communication. It sharpens quick thinking while maintaining calm delivery. You start to articulate complex ideas with ease because your mind has been trained to think and speak simultaneously. Reading aloud also helps develop a relationship with language that feels personal. You begin to sense the beauty of words not just as tools of expression, but as living sounds. You hear their rhythm, their texture, their emotional vibration. This sensitivity to sound elevates your ability to choose words wisely. Language stops being mechanical and becomes artistic. When you later speak, your choice of words naturally reflects elegance and thoughtfulness. The benefits of this practice compound quietly. Over weeks, articulation improves. Over months, confidence solidifies. Over years, mastery emerges. The simple act of reading aloud becomes a lifelong teacher. It keeps the voice supple, the mind agile, and the spirit engaged. It reminds you that articulation is not a gift reserved for the few. It is a skill cultivated through consistency. Those who commit to reading aloud daily discover that the power of voice extends beyond communication. It shapes identity. It brings harmony between what is thought and what is spoken. It transforms speech from reaction into expression, from noise into music. Over time, this ritual becomes more than practice. It becomes meditation through sound, a daily dialogue between mind and meaning. Reading aloud daily to sharpen articulation is an act of devotion to clarity, to discipline, and to self-expression. It trains patience, awareness, and precision. It teaches the value of every syllable and the strength found in steady rhythm. As you continue the practice, your speech begins to carry a quiet authority, a presence that draws attention effortlessly. Words no longer stumble, they glide. Sentences no longer compete with noise, they rise above it. Your voice becomes a refined instrument of thought, carrying meaning with strength and grace. And through that voice, the world hears not just sound, but intention, confidence, and truth, spoken clearly, beautifully, and unmistakably yours. Number 9. Adopt storytelling for natural conversational flow. Human communication has always been rooted in storytelling. Before books, microphones, or presentations, people shared wisdom through tales passed from one voice to another. Storytelling isn't just a performance, it's the most natural and compelling way humans connect. When you speak through stories, you create images in the listener's mind. You invite them to feel, imagine, and participate. It transforms a conversation from a transfer of information into an emotional exchange. Adopting storytelling in your speech brings warmth, relatability, and rhythm that no memorized script could ever achieve. Storytelling creates flow because it mirrors how people think. Our minds don't store facts as isolated fragments. They live within experiences. When you speak through a story, you give your listener a mental pathway to follow. They see the beginning, sense the tension, anticipate the change, and relax with the resolution. This sequence keeps attention alive without force. The listener doesn't have to work hard to stay engaged because the structure of story carries them forward naturally. Whether you're describing a real event or explaining an idea, wrapping it in narrative form helps your message land effortlessly. Adopting storytelling in everyday conversation is about learning to see life as narrative. Every moment carries potential. A lesson, a turning point, a bit of humor, a moment of insight. The key is awareness. Pay attention to the small details of daily life. The person who surprised you with kindness, the challenge that taught you patience, the mistake that led to discovery. Each of these can become a story that communicates something larger. By turning experience into narrative, you give meaning to your words and authenticity to your presence. When you tell a story, you transform abstract thought into something tangible. Instead of saying, "I learned to be patient," you describe the day you missed your train, felt frustration rise, then realized the delay gave you time to think. The listener experiences your realization as if it were their own. They remember your emotion, not just your words. That is the power of storytelling. It transfers feeling, not just fact. In natural conversation, this emotional connection matters far more than polished vocabulary. People remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. To adopt storytelling for conversational flow, practice simplicity. You don't need dramatic tales or rehearsed performances. Even a brief, real-life moment told with sincerity can captivate attention. Focus on three elements: what happened, how you felt, and what it meant. This keeps your narrative clear and purposeful. Resist the temptation to over-explain or drift into unnecessary detail. A good story breathes, it moves at the pace of human curiosity. The listener should always feel gently pulled forward, never pushed. Tone and pacing bring stories to life. As you speak, allow your voice to reflect the rhythm of the moment. Slow down when describing suspense. Brighten your tone when sharing joy, and let silence linger after emotional turns. These shifts in delivery make your speech dynamic and human. Storytelling thrives on contrast between tension and release, between laughter and reflection. When your voice mirrors that rhythm, your listener subconsciously leans in. You no longer sound like you're reciting words. You sound like you're reliving a moment. An often overlooked part of storytelling is listening. The best conversational storytellers adapt their tone and timing to the audience's response. Watch for cues, eye contact, facial expression, small reactions. If the listener leans in, linger on the moment. If attention drifts, move the story forward. Storytelling and conversation is not performance. It's collaboration. You're co-creating an experience. The listener's attention shapes your delivery, and your delivery shapes their engagement. This mutual rhythm builds connection deeper than any well-prepared speech. Good storytellers understand that vulnerability makes stories powerful. Perfection distances, but honesty invites. When you share moments of struggle, humor, or doubt, you show your humanity. People trust voices that feel real. A story where you stumbled, learned, and grew invites others to open up as well. This authenticity gives natural flow to conversation because it removes barriers. You're not trying to impress, you're sharing. And sharing at its heart is the essence of connection. One of the most effective ways to strengthen storytelling ability is through observation. Notice how great communicators use anecdotes. Listen to podcasts, speeches, or even casual conversations where people draw you in effortlessly. Study their rhythm. Observe how they begin. A setting, a question, a small hook. See how they build anticipation and land their point without losing spontaneity. Then try it yourself. Tell small stories every day. Describe your morning with color. Explain your idea through an example. Over time, storytelling becomes instinctive. The art of storytelling also enhances memory and organization of thought. When you tell a story, you are unconsciously structuring your ideas, beginning, middle, and end. This structure carries into all your speech. You start forming sentences that naturally follow a logical flow. You avoid rambling because stories teach you sequence and coherence. The more you practice, the more your everyday communication gains clarity. This is why storytelling is so valuable. It trains the mind to think narratively, which means to think clearly. Storytelling also gives your communication rhythm. Every story has a heartbeat, moments of energy, followed by quiet pauses. Learning to feel that rhythm makes your speech fluid. You start sensing when to pause, when to emphasize, when to breathe. This natural cadence is what makes conversation flow gracefully. It replaces robotic delivery with life and movement. The more you tell stories aloud, the more you develop your internal sense of timing. That timing is what makes you sound confident and at ease. Emotion is the invisible thread that holds every story together. Facts inform, but feelings persuade. When you allow genuine emotion into your storytelling, laughter, awe, empathy, you awaken the listener's senses. The energy you give is the energy they feel. Emotion is not about dramatization. It's about sincerity. If a memory still warms you, puzzles you, or inspires you, that emotion will translate naturally through your tone and pace. When your words carry feeling, your message carries weight. Adopting storytelling also sharpens imagination. To tell a vivid story, you must see it in your mind first. You visualize colors, sounds, and sensations, and your listener does the same. This shared imagination bridges the gap between speaker and audience. It transforms your words from explanation into experience. Over time, this imaginative skill expands your descriptive power. You begin to choose words more precisely, paint images more clearly, and express thoughts more beautifully. Your conversations become not only clear but captivating. Practicing storytelling also improves confidence. When you can turn any experience into an engaging story, you never run out of things to say. You stop fearing silence or awkward pauses, because you can always draw from your well of experiences. You learn to shape ordinary moments into meaningful dialogue. This ability gives you presence. You no longer rush your thoughts. You guide them through narrative. That calm, flowing energy makes people listen. Storytelling connects both sides of communication, logic and emotion, thought and feeling, information and inspiration. It makes the act of speaking multidimensional. Instead of pushing words outward, you invite people inward. You give them something to picture, something to feel, something to remember. When you communicate through story, your words breathe. They carry a pulse that resonates beyond the moment. This resonance is what makes your speech memorable and your presence magnetic. Ultimately, adopting storytelling for natural conversational flow is not about memorizing tales or rehearsing lines. It's about reclaiming the oldest form of human connection, sharing experience through voice. It invites curiosity instead of control, empathy instead of performance. When you speak this way, every interaction becomes meaningful. The conversation feels alive, organic, and authentic. Your listener relaxes, your words unfold naturally, and together you create understanding. The beauty of storytelling lies in its simplicity. Every person has stories worth sharing. The more you practice, the more fluent you become in the language of human experience. Your speech grows vivid, your rhythm effortless, your connection deep. Storytelling is not an addition to communication. It is its heart. It reminds us that clarity is not only about how well we pronounce words, but how well we convey life through them. In adopting storytelling, your speech gains not just flow, but soul. You stop speaking merely to be heard. You start speaking to be felt. And that, more than anything, is the mark of a truly articulate voice. Number 10. Observe great speakers. Emulate their rhythm. To observe great speakers and emulate their rhythm is to study mastery through presence. Every powerful speaker carries a distinctive cadence, a flow that makes their words feel alive, deliberate, and memorable. Rhythm in speech is not merely about timing or tone. It is the soul of delivery. It transforms simple language into persuasion and emotion into movement. By observing the best, you begin to absorb the unspoken principles of eloquence, how energy rises and falls, how pauses breathe meaning into sentences, how voice carries confidence even in silence. Emulating rhythm is not imitation, it is alignment. It is learning the art of balance between voice, breath, and thought until expression becomes seamless. Every great speaker has one thing in common: awareness. They are not lost in their words. They are fully conscious of how each phrase lands. Their rhythm comes from attention, not accident. When you watch them, you see that they never rush, yet they never drag. Their speech moves with purpose, adjusting naturally to the emotion of the moment. They can hold silence without discomfort, speak softly without losing strength, and build momentum without force. To emulate this, One must learn to listen deeply before learning to speak. The rhythm of speech mirrors the rhythm of listening. Those who listen well develop speech that feels alive, responsive, and human. Observation is the gateway to understanding. When you study a great speaker, do not only listen to what they say. Watch how they say it. Notice the alignment between their words and their body language. Observe how their eyes connect with the audience, how their hands accentuate ideas, how they pace their delivery in harmony with thought. The rhythm of their speech extends beyond sound. It lives in the coordination between gesture, breath, and intention. This holistic awareness creates authenticity. When you emulate such rhythm, you begin to embody communication rather than perform it. To refine this skill, choose a few speakers whose delivery moves you. They may be leaders, poets, teachers, or storytellers. Each offers a different rhythm, some deliberate and reflective, others vibrant and passionate. Listen not as a fan, but as a student of sound. Replay key moments. Feel the pace of their words, the pauses between ideas, the tonal shifts that emphasize meaning, then read their words silently. Notice how flat they feel without the rhythm of delivery. This contrast reveals how rhythm gives language its life. Once you have observed, begin to emulate, not by copying, but by internalizing. Speak their sentences aloud, and feel the movement of their phrasing through your breath. Pay attention to where they pause and how they rise or fall in tone. Then adapt that rhythm to your own style. The goal is not to mimic their personality, but to absorb the structure of their delivery until it feels natural through your own voice. Over time, you begin to discover your rhythm, shaped by the inspiration of others but grounded in authenticity. Rhythm in speech mirrors rhythm in thought. When your ideas flow clearly, your delivery follows smoothly. Many people speak in uneven bursts because their thoughts are scattered. Great speakers think in patterns. They build ideas sequentially, using rhythm to guide the listener through the journey. Observe how they transition between points. Their sentences often start with energy, settle with reflection, and end with emphasis. This internal rhythm gives direction and confidence to their voice. By studying such transitions, you learn how to maintain flow without losing structure. Another subtle trait of great speakers is control over silence. They use it not as absence, but as punctuation. A brief pause before a key phrase draws attention. A moment of quiet after a profound statement lets meaning sink in. This dynamic rhythm movement, followed by stillness, creates emotional contrast. When you emulate this, your speech gains depth. You stop fearing silence and begin to use it as a tool of clarity. Silence becomes part of the rhythm itself, shaping how every word is received. Tone variation is another essential element. Great speakers play with pitch and energy like musicians. They emphasize important points through vocal contrast. When they describe something inspiring, their voice lifts. When they reflect on something serious, it lowers and softens. This variation prevents monotony and sustains engagement. Rhythm, therefore, is not just about pace, it's about emotion. It's the natural ebb and flow between passion and calm, between movement and rest. When you emulate this, your speech stops sounding mechanical and starts feeling alive. Emulating rhythm also develops emotional intelligence. You start to sense how different tones influence mood. You notice when a quick tempo energizes a conversation, and when slowing down builds trust. You begin to feel the pulse of human attention, the invisible rhythm that connects you to your audience. This awareness allows you to adapt in real time, shaping your message according to the emotional landscape of the moment. Observing great speakers trains this sensitivity. They read the room without effort, because they have mastered rhythm not as performance, but as connection. Practical training makes this skill tangible. Choose a short clip of a speaker you admire and play it daily. Repeat it aloud, not word for word, but rhythm for rhythm. Focus on how they breathe, how they pause, how they glide between thoughts. Then record yourself delivering a similar message in your own tone. Compare. Notice where your pacing tightens or flattens. Adjust gradually until your words feel fluid and unforced. This process refines awareness. It's not about imitation, it's about synchronization with the deeper rhythm of expression. Another powerful exercise is to read a passage from any book. and deliver it as if it were a speech. Read it once quickly, then again with attention to rhythm. Feel how slowing down changes tone, how emphasizing certain words changes meaning. You begin to recognize that rhythm is not something external. It emerges from how you inhabit your words. Great speakers don't chase rhythm, they live it. Their voice, breath, and thought move as one continuous wave. Observation also teaches humility. When you watch masters speak, you realize how much power lies in restraint. Their strength comes not from volume or vocabulary, but from balance. They trust their rhythm enough to let silence hold space and let simplicity carry force. This understanding transforms your perspective. You stop trying to sound impressive and start aiming to sound genuine. Rhythm, in its purest form, is the sound of authenticity, steady, grounded, and sincere. To emulate rhythm well, one must cultivate patience. The process is gradual, like learning an instrument. At first, you become aware of dissonance. Your words may feel uneven, your pauses awkward, but with repetition, you develop timing. The more you align your breath and mind, the smoother the sound becomes. You begin to sense the subtle timing between thought and speech, between emotion and delivery. Eventually, rhythm becomes instinctive, a quiet power that shapes every sentence without conscious effort. Observing great speakers also awakens inspiration. Each one has a unique rhythm shaped by life experience. Martin Luther King Jr. carried a cadence rooted in conviction and hope. Maya Angelou's rhythm blended warmth with wisdom. Barack Obama's measured pauses reflected reflection and poise. Each rhythm tells a story. By studying them, you realize that rhythm is not style alone. It is character expressed through sound. Your rhythm will grow from who you are, from the clarity of your beliefs and the calm of your mind. In time, emulating rhythm teaches more than speaking. It teaches presence. To carry rhythm well, you must be fully in the moment. Your attention cannot wander, because rhythm depends on awareness. The more present you are, the more naturally your delivery flows. You begin to sense the right time to pause, the perfect moment to emphasize, the natural ending of a thought. This awareness gives your speech a living quality, one that resonates because it feels real. To observe great speakers and emulate their rhythm is to train both ear and spirit. It is to absorb lessons that cannot be written, only felt. It teaches humility through observation, confidence through repetition, and harmony through awareness. Rhythm becomes not just a speaking skill but a way of moving through the world, measured, intentional, and alive. As you refine this practice, you discover that the true rhythm you seek is not in others but within yourself. The masters you study are mirrors reflecting what already lives in your potential. Their cadence awakens your own. When you finally speak with rhythm that is authentically yours, your words no longer just fill silence. They create present. That presence, calm and commanding, is what defines a truly articulate voice.